Hello and welcome to Augmintech. So the topic for today is building materials and finishes. Today we are going to learn about different types of ceiling and wall materials, properties of wall materials and properties of ceiling materials. So the first type of material that we are going to talk about is the most important one, which is wall paint. Now, wall paint is the most commonly used material for walls. This is something we do for most of the spaces that we design, right? So, there are different types of paints, and based on your need and based on the kind of space that you're using, you will you will choose your wall paint. So the first is emulsion paint. Now this is the most commonly used wall paint these days. We all use emulsion paints in residential, commercial, retail spaces. So wherever there you can see some kind of design and you want to have some color on your wall, this is what you are going to use, emulsion paint. So emulsion paint is water based with acrylic or vinyl resins. This is simply the composition of the paint. So this paint is specifically water based. This is what you should know. Now, this paint is also very easy to apply. It is quick drying. So it is like when you paint a room and after that you want to do another coat, because generally we do three coats of any kind of a paint. So we have a primer which is put on the plaster and then you put your wall paint. Sometimes people also do wall putty before that. So that is also one thing for making the surface very smooth. So when you have a raw site where you have a plastered wall, first thing you do is you put wall putty on the wall. Second thing is then you do the primer coat, which is a white paint which is done on the base of any wall, so that the wall paint which you are going to put after that stays for a longer duration. It also gives a basic, you know, a base point for the color to build up. So the color, the putty might have some variations. So the primer takes that away. Primer gives you a blank canvas. So after the primer is done, what we do is emulsion paint. So that's the first one. Now this kind of paint is also low odor. Now this kind of paint does not stink a lot and it still has some kind of an odor, but it is low odor as compared to the other paints that we'll talk about. Now, this also comes in various finishes. You can do your emulsion paint in high gloss if you want to do it in satin finish or matte finish. Now, matte finish is when you want to keep it like non-reflective. So that is your matte finish. Gloss finish is if you want the surface to be a little reflective. And satin finish in somewhere in the middle, we also call it velvet finish. Now that's something where you can see some reflection, but it's very less. So that's the middle part. Then also this kind of a paint is low VOC, that is volatile organic compounds content. Now this kind of a paint does not exude so many harmful chemicals. So this is also recommended for residential and commercial spaces because this is comparatively less VOC. Now, you have to think about all of these things when you're looking for a paint. So, if you are opting for a paint, now you should know that you are looking for low VOC, you are looking for low odor, you are looking for what kind of finish. Now, this can depend on the type of design that you are creating or type of function that you have in the space. Maybe you want to create a space which is, very soft and neutral. Maybe you want to use matte only. Then maybe a space is there where you want to, have a very lustrous effect. There you can go for gloss finish. So that was about emulsion paint. So the second kind of wall paint that we are going to talk about is your enamel paint. Now, enamel paint is an oil-based paint. It is suitable for high traffic areas. Now, see, the paint that we talked about before, emulsion, that is a water-based paint. So, that means it is not as resistible to wear and tear. But oil-based paints have a little more density, they are a little more strong. So they are suitable for high traffic areas. Now, this kind of paint has some kind of a sheen on it. It's like it is laminated. If you look at an enamel painted wall, you'll feel like the wall is laminated to an extent. It has a luster kind of a finish. But this is only suitable for high traffic areas where you want that paint should last long, because it has a very strong odor. One, that it kind of stinks in a way. It smells very harsh. It has a lot of chemicals in it, and it also takes a longer time to dry. So once you are done with your enamel paint, you might have to wait more than 24 hours to even think about your repainting. So this kind of a time is not suitable for residential spaces, because you do want to complete your home, even faster than that. And you do not have a lot of high traffic in residential areas. So there are only going to be the family members who are in the space, right? So you can go for emulsion. Enamel paint, only opt for this if you are looking for a small cafe area or a space where you think that this wall might face a lot of scratches and wear and tear. So there you can go for enamel paint. Now, enamel paint is also very easy to wipe and clean. So you can simply take a cloth, damp it with water and clean your wall with that. So if you have small stains on wall, those can be covered up or those can be removed with the help of wiping. So that is what makes it like easier for commercial people. So if people are working with a cafe, let's say, or somebody has just put their fingerprints on the wall. So as being in a commercial business, you do not want to spend a lot of money on repainting a lot of times. So enamel paint gives you that opportunity where you do not have to paint it again and again. You can simply wipe it off, or you can have a schedule where you're getting your walls also cleaned, just like you do with your floor and other things, right? So this was the second type of paint. So now another kind of wall paint that we are going to talk about is your distemper paint. Now this is a paint finish which is no more popular and people do not use it nowadays very often. But this was a solution which was being used for many decades before emulsion paint arrived or emulsion paint came into picture. Now, distemper paint is very cost effective. It is very cheap, and when you have to, it comes in like a powder form. So you have to put it in a mixture of water, and then you can just paint it on your walls. So it has a two-step procedure to complete work on site. That is one. It is water based. Now this is also not very durable. If you want to go for a commercial space, never use this paint. So this kind of paint may be cost effective, but it provides a very non-reflective finish. Here you cannot think about you want a sheen or you want a laminated kind of a look or you want some kind of luster. That is not possible with distemper. But also there is another drawback of using this paint is that it is prone to flaking and chalking. So maybe when you have painted your walls with distemper paint, after some time, if there is change in humidity, you might feel that the paint is starting to chalk up. So now the powder which was there inside the paint, now that has started to come out. So it starts to chalk and flake. So that is also one thing. But now why are we talking about this material? We are talking about this material because sometimes there are very restricted budgets and you want to just do a quick makeover of a space, or you want to just create a temporary solution for somebody. Then you can go for this kind of a paint. You might not want your client to spend too much money when you know that this is something that is just going to last for a few months. Then you can opt for distemper. Now, it is not like it's not good. It has all the properties of being a paint, but the problem comes when there is a lot of moisture that arrives on site or arrives on walls. That is the time when it starts to flake or chalk, right? So just keep in mind, emulsion paint should be your option anytime you're looking for your residential commercial spaces. If you are looking for a space which is high traffic and it is going to have a lot of crowd, then maybe you can go for enamel paint. And if you have very less budget, let's say you do not have budget for paint at all, then you can go for distemper paint. And also, if you have a space which is going to be utilized only for temporarily for like a few months, then you can go for distemper paint. So, the next type of wall finish that we are going to talk about is texture paint. Let me tell you with experience that texture paint is something that you can go for or opt for if you are looking for a different kind of solutions within a budget. Now, this kind of a paint provides you with a very different kind of a mood. If you do not want to use wallpaper, if you do not want to add any other kind of texture to your wall, with the help of external materials, you can simply go for texture paint. So the first kind of texture paint is the sand texture. Now texture simply means that you have these grains like granules in your paint, and when that paint is done on wall, you can actually feel those grains. So if you just touch on the surface of that wall, you will feel those textures. So now that makes this space very tactile and it makes it interactive. Now, if any person walks through that space, if they are walking through that wall, they can simply touch and actually feel the texture of the wall. So it gives you another dimension. Now, secondly, if you are looking for a very subtle texture, you can go for Venetian texture. Venetian texture is something that you are looking at in this image. Now, what happens here is the plaster is done and then more layers of plaster are applied and there is an uneven kind of distribution which is created, right? So they want to create this kind of a texture, so that is why they keep applying plaster in layers. So that gives you this kind of a finish. And after that, a very sheen like paint is done on top to create this kind of a look that you see. Now, what texture paint does is it adds very much of a depth and it adds a character in the space. Let's say you want to create a cement texture on your walls. So once you do a cement texture on walls, you will get the feeling of a raw industrial theme, right? So even just doing a texture, by just doing a texture paint, you will achieve the theme of your choice. So that is the reason why I'm saying that this is a very important material to know about. Also, it is very cost effective because essentially you are just painting, right? You are just using paint only, but with a different technique. So, but there are some challenges that you might face when you're working with the texture, that it is going to be very challenging to clean. That is one thing. So let's say we applied a green texture on the wall and it gets stained because of something or something else. Now, how will how will you clean that? So after that's the first challenge. Secondly, it is a bit expensive than paint. It obviously, because we are doing layers and layers of paint, so it is a little bit expensive. Then we also need a professional to do it. It is not like any painter can do texture paint. They need to know what kind of texture you are planning and they need to know the techniques of applying that texture or creating that texture. Nowadays, companies like Asian Paints, they have started providing us with, a texture paint kit along with the team to do the texture. Now, these kind of textures help us accentuate the space and they're also like a cheaper version of any kind of wall paneling that you would do. So you can literally create, textures like your spatula texture, if you want to create something like clouds, or if you want a marble finish or marble texture, that can also be done with the help of paint itself. So it is cost effective in a way, right? Also, texture paint comes in a different kind of variety. Now, if you are using a metallic paint, you can get that sheen. If you are using a matte paint, you can create a matte texture. So it is up to you about how you want to experiment. But just make sure whoever works with the texture paint knows what he is doing. The next material that we are going to talk about is wallpaper. Now, wallpaper, you all must have heard about wallpaper or seen wallpapers many a times. But there are so many different variations of wallpaper available in the market, which you need to be aware about before you select a wallpaper for the space you are planning it for. So, the first kind of wallpaper is vinyl wallpaper. This has a vinyl surface layer. Vinyl simply means the print that it has, and it is durable. So it has a protective layer on top, and it is easy to clean. So now when you are applying this kind of a wallpaper, you can simply take a damp cloth and clean it later on. So that is one way of going about it. Also, this kind of a wallpaper is ideal for high traffic areas because it is not going to get ruined very easily, right? So this is the first kind of wallpaper. It is ideally used for your spaces like restaurants, cafes, or any retail stores you are doing. So you should opt for a vinyl wallpaper. Then comes paper wallpaper. Paper wallpaper simply means it is what it is. We are talking about wallpaper. So here it actually is paper. There are no other things, there is no base, there is no top, there is just paper. So now this is a very eco-friendly option. But again, being just a paper, it is going to be less durable. You cannot clean it with any kind of a cloth, so it is going to be harder to clean. So this is not recommended for areas where anybody's hands can reach. You can maybe use it for a space if you are creating a panel, a high panel, or if you are creating a accent wall, maybe you want to go for this kind of aesthetic. But this is simply harder to clean, so you should avoid it to use it for residential areas or spaces where more or less people are going to interact with the wall. So you should try to use vinyl more than this, even though it is eco-friendly. But maybe you get a client who wants an eco-friendly option, but then this will work for you. But otherwise, try and go for vinyl only. Now, another kind of wallpaper that I'm going to talk about is textured wallpaper. Now, textured wallpaper is also made of vinyl or fabric, but it has a 3D effect to it, right? It is kind of like it is engraved or it is coming out of the wall. It is something that is tactile, that you can literally feel when you are you're putting your hand on the wall. You can feel the wallpaper. If you look at this image, you can literally see that there are few places which are coming out and there are few places that are going in. So that gives a very interesting look. If you are trying to create a bedroom space, for example, like this one, so see, just this 3D kind of a textured wallpaper is adding so much depth in the room. So you do not need to do a lot more. If you are looking for something in a budget, maybe a textured wallpaper is the way to go. Or if you are looking for a quick solution, if you do not have time to go for texture paint, you can go for textured wallpaper. It will get applied within a day and you will get very beautiful appearing wall. Now, this is also something that you should keep in mind, that whenever you are going for a textured wallpaper, it can also help you hide wall imperfections. Now, whenever the walls are created on site, it is not always important that your wall is, totally smooth and there are no undulations, because it is a manual labor job. So it might have some imperfections. So when you are using this kind of a wallpaper, that will help you hide those imperfections. So maybe if you have a typically imperfect wall which you want to hide, so you can opt for a material like this, right? Next comes your fabric wallpaper. Now, just like your paper wallpaper, fabric wallpaper is exactly what it sounds like. It is made up of fabric. Now, because it is fabric, it is more expensive, and secondly, it is harder to install. Now, since it is a paper in case of vinyl or textured wallpaper, that is easier to put on wall with the help of adhesive, and there are less chances that it might come off. But with fabric, what happens is it is a little bit harder to install and it is very hard to clean as well. Because with vinyl paper, you can use your damp cloth. But if you already have a fabric, if you will, apply some wet cloth on it, it is not going to work for you. And also you cannot dry clean your walls, right? So you can just vacuum them whenever you are cleaning it. So that's the only way you can avoid dust, but there is no a way to avoid your stains. So maybe look for areas which are less traffic prone, where there is just a need for an accent space, because these look absolutely stunning, but the space needs to be clearly defined that this is the place and here nobody is going to come and ruin it, right? Now, the next wallpaper that I'm going to talk about is foil wallpaper. Now, this is a very interesting kind of wallpaper. This is similar, it's basically the vinyl wallpaper only, but it has some kind of this shiny finish. If you look at this somewhat looks like your Venetian texture, right? So instead of going for texture paint, you can upgrade and go for a wallpaper like this. This will have a shiny finish. This will give a very luxury chic look. And if you are looking for something, easy to install, quick to use, and you're going for luxurious looks, then this kind of wallpaper is going to be your friend. Also, you can, like, if you see in this picture, they have not used this on complete wall. They have created a panel here and used it here, because this kind of wallpaper can also be overpowering. So whenever you are using wallpaper on any site, you should always know where to stop and what is the ideal way of using it. Because if you simply just use so much wallpaper, it is not going to come out well. It is not going to look as aesthetic. Then the fourth one, which I'm going to talk about, is your peel and stick wallpaper. Now, peel and stick wallpaper is simply a DIY wallpaper which people generally buy from Amazon, and they try to do it at home. So this is self-adhesive. Now, if you want to go for a temporary solution, maybe you have a client who is saying that, this is just a rental space. I do not want to spend so much. So can you give me a solution which is, budget friendly? So this can be your friend. So it is easy to apply. You just take off the peel from the back and you stick it on your wall. So that is how the wallpaper works. So you can create small panels for them, or you can tell them to you do it themselves, or maybe there is a relative looking for advice, which is going to happen a lot to you, let me tell you. So those kind of things, there you can go for peel and stick wallpaper. Now, this is a bonus part. So if I'm talking about wallpaper, this is the kind of wallpaper that you might not have heard of. This is called grass cloth wallpaper. Now, what happens here is this is a very sustainable solution for your residences. If you are looking for a sustainable design, then this is your friend. If this kind of wallpaper is made from materials like jute, hemp, or seagrass, so this is completely eco-friendly. But the problem with this is that it is not washable, and you cannot use it for high traffic areas because it is delicate. But if you look at the aesthetic point of view here, if you look at this image, this is how it looks. So it simply feels like jute on wall, or materials like hemp on wall. So that is something that is very ideal for some concepts or some spaces. So you can use it for areas like maybe a small dining space. Maybe you can use it for a panel behind the console, or you can use it for maybe a table, or sorry, a reception counter where you want to keep a back which is very, natural looking. So you can use it for that. So these kind of wallpapers are going to give your design a certain edge. When you are looking for wallpapers in the market, if you go and ask for this kind of a wallpaper, it will be a different category and it is going to give you a very different look. Except for if you are going for any kind of vinyl wallpaper, that is something which is available everywhere. So these kind of wallpapers are also a little bit expensive. So you can use them for your high-end projects and not for everyday projects. But in case you have a very, very rigid aesthetic that this is what you want, then you can use it in moderation maybe. Or if you have that kind of a budget for your client, you can go for this kind of wallpaper for residential spaces as well. Now, the next material that I'm going to talk about is wall tiles. Now, wall tiles are becoming popular these days because, Earlier, we did not have such options or varieties in tiles. But these days, you get so many options that you can choose from, and there is so much variety going on that you can opt for wall tiles. Even though this is something that is going to cost you more than any wallpaper or paint, but this is something that is going to give you a different look. So, for example, you have a space where you have created a fireplace just like this one, and you want to accentuate that particular wall, then maybe you can go for a material like tile. Here they have used this kind of a stone tile which is giving very earthy look. You can also opt for colorful tiles if you're looking for a mosaic tile. If you want to add some pop of color in your space, then mosaic tile might look very good. If you want to go for a kind of solution where you want to, replicate marble, then these days we are getting tiles up to size 8 feet by 4 feet which replicate marble. It looks like marble only. So if you only have a space which is 8 by 4, then that would be so convenient for you to just put a wall tile instead of going for marble and then sanding it. Also, it will be cost effective. It is not going to be as expensive as marble. In the same price of tile, you can get Botticino, you can get Carrara or Calcutta, or you, if you want, you can get Macrana also. So the tile is the base price will remain the same, but the textures are something that you can explore. So there are multiple options. Also, tiles are very resistant to wear and tear. Once the tile is put on the wall, there is nothing that you need to do to maintain it. You can simply wash it, clean it with a damp cloth. It is very simple to maintain, and it is easy to sanitize. It is not something which is going to collect dust or kind of feel like this is something that needs a lot of cleanliness. So that's not the case. In case you are going for a very textured tile which is very rough texture, then maybe there might be challenge. But again, tiles are something that you can simply clean with a damp cloth. So any kind of a tile you put, you can always clean it, and it has a very long lifespan. Maybe if you put a tile in certain space in your living room, you can wait for decades, and even then the tile will be there. If you have put it correctly, you have taken a nice form of tile, then it is going to stay with you. Now again, with tiles, what you can do is you can experiment with shapes and sizes. Now we already have so many standard sizes available in the market, but you can always cut them and place them as you want it. Now, like in this case, they have used a smaller version of tile, a small tile. But if you want, you can have a big tile here, small tiles here, however you like. So the size options are so many that you can also create a sort of pattern. Maybe you want to go for a big tile first, and then you want to go for smaller tiles on the border if you want to create any kind of a pattern. So for your walls, you have n number of options. So even within this category, you can have so as many options as maybe you have chosen 4 tile options, but now you can create 5-6 permutation combinations of that as well. So this is something that gives you a lot of freedom to work with, right? So also, this is some wall tiles are something that we use a lot in our washrooms. Washrooms cannot work without wall tiles. These days we have showers which are coming from all 4 sides. We have steam. We have so much going on in our washrooms that walls cannot withstand that kind of humidity or moisture. So we use tiles for washrooms mainly, and then for kitchens. Now for kitchens also, these are the area where temperature varies. This is the area where there is a lot of use of water. So you do not want damp spaces. So wherever you feel that there is dampness also, you can go for tile and it will not let it out. So those kind of solutions are very necessary in case of washrooms and kitchens, because we do not want these areas to be spoiled easily. We want sanitization in our washrooms and kitchens. So we use tiles as much as possible. Then again, for accent walls, if you want to create something new, these days even printed tiles are in. You can simply get a customized also if you want. So there are so many options available in the market that you can choose from. This will be clearer to you once you are on the field, once you are working. You will see how many options you have in this category. Now, another material that I'm going to talk about is wood paneling. Now, for our walls, we do have this tendency to create something like you see in this picture. So, here what they've done is they've created a wood paneling. Now, wood paneling can be done in multiple ways. First way is that you actually use solid timber and you create panels out of timber and you use those only. Now, this is an expensive choice, but this is something that you would go for if you're looking for something very natural, right? So, solid wood will be a very good option for you if you want to go for something natural. But if you want something which is looking like wood but costs less, then engineered wood is something that you can use. Engineered wood is basically either MDF or plywood, where they have stuck a veneer on top. So there is no full solid wood. It is something which is MDF or plywood, and veneer is just the top layer. Now that gives you a variety of options to play with. Once you're working with solid wood, that is the only kind of grain that you're going to get. But if you're working with engineered wood, you can go for multiple grain options within the same wall panel. You can create as many options as possible. Now, for wall paneling, there are no rules. It simply depends upon the designer's choice and their concept about how they are going to go about it and why are they using certain material, right? So, if you are looking for a less costly affair, then you should go for engineered wood. If you have a solid budget and it's okay for you to go for solid wood, right? Solid wood will also give you a very rustic kind of look, and it will look more natural, feel more natural than engineered wood. But engineered wood is going to give you so many options. So now for engineered wood, it is not always like that you have to think about the wood available to you in the surrounding. So if you want to go for a birch wood which is not available in India, or you want to go for an oak wood, ash wood which is not readily available, then go for engineered wood, because you are going to get the similar kind of your feeling that you are trying to create. Also, you can polish it according to your needs. So whenever you are using a veneer, you can polish it with a stain, or you can polish it clear, however you want it, right? Same goes for solid wood as well. But for engineered wood, the options and varieties are huge. These days, we are also getting fluted veneers. So the veneer, that the top layer of the wood might be something which has stripes already on it, right? So we will cover these kind of materials in the next section, but this is something that is going to give you a lot of variety. So when thinking about a wood paneling, you can always think about engineered wood as well. Now, let's talk about a material which is literally trending on Reels. I don't know how many people have shared this with me. This is called faux stone paneling. Now, faux stone simply means fake stone. So, this is not actually stone, but it looks so much like stone. So, this is what I'm talking about. Have you not seen it anywhere? If you have not, maybe you use Instagram less, or you have less interior design pages followed. So this is something, this material has come up in market. These come in 4 by 2 and 8 by 2 panels, and also in 2 by 2 panels. Now what happens is, here what they have done is they have created these kind of stone finishes using polyurethane, or PU as you call it, or polypropylene and fiberglass. So these kind of materials are completely synthetic, but they mimic and look the texture of natural stone. So this basically is a very lightweight material. So when you apply it on wall, it is not very cumbersome job. If you have to achieve the same look with actual stone, that is going to cost you a lot of money and a lot of effort as well. The transportation cost, the weight of this, the labor cost is going to, go off the roof. So that is why these are becoming very popular these days. because it is easier to use. It also gives that kind of a feeling of, a rough stone. It comes in a variety of colors, and you can use it to accentuate any space you want to. Like, for example, here they have used it for a living space. This is a living area, and they have used it on this wall. Now, this comes in a variety of color options. If you see, it has this charcoal gray, this has a slate gray, a light gray, chalk white, off white. So, 4, 5 color options are there. I think beige is also there. So, now what happens is, any kind of color scheme that you're creating for your space, you can simply match the kind of panel that works with your theme, and you can use that. This is also very cheap in comparison to actual stone. So this is going to be something which totally helps you with your budgeting, right? So whenever you are offering your client solutions, maybe if you have a plan in mind that you want to go for a stone wall, then just say stone wall. If at a point you feel like this is something that is not working with the client's budget, then you can offer them materials like these, because in a way these kind of materials are available in market, and they're there for us to use only. But the problem is that this is still not real, this is still not sustainable. We are moving towards sustainability, so options which are natural are more convenient, are something which is more long lasting, right? You can actually anytime you want to polish your stone, you can simply clean it up with a damp cloth and you are done. But if material like this is being used, it has a life. You cannot think about it as a forever kind of a material, right? Now, the next material that we are going to talk about is PVC paneling. Now, PVC paneling is something which has taken a lot of popularity within this last decade. Now, this is something that you must have seen in many places. Now, this kind of panel, this is called a louvered panel. It comes in the size of 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, and the width is just 5 inches, 6 inches, or 1 feet. So these are like tall panels, and these are connected with each other through tongue and groove, like I showed you for the flooring, right? For the flooring also, we were using that kind of tongue and groove mechanism. Here also is the same. Now, what happens with PVC is that it can be done in your wooden finish or in your stone finish. If you want to create certain kind of a design in actual wood, that would cost you 3, 4 times more, and that would also take so much intensive labor to work with. So when you get PVC paneling like this, you can use that. Now, PVC paneling, these kind of panels also come in charcoal panels. So I will explain that also later on. But PVC is something which is very common these days, and also very cheap. But it is not at all eco-friendly, because of course there is use of a lot of plastic. Again, it is not very healthy for the residential use, or the for the smaller spaces use, because it emits some kind of fumes also, because the odor of this kind of a material is different, so maybe some people might be allergic for it. So, but what happens is these days people use it for high moisture areas. Maybe you have dampness on one wall, so use PVC on top, because PVC will not get affected because of dampness. It is water resistant, waterproof. So you do not have to think about that. So that's the reason why people keep using this. But I would say avoid it as much as you can. But if you are looking for a quick solution, if you are looking for a budget friendly solution, PVC paneling is your friend. Now comes a very popular one also, called charcoal paneling. Now, charcoal paneling literally means that it has charcoal and polystyrene in it. Polystyrene, if you know, it is basically high density thermocol, which is now combined with your charcoal, and then they create these panels. Now, these panels look somewhat like this. They come in a variety of options, and the sizes are also available within, like, they are available, I think, in 2 or 3 sizes. So it is one like 8x4 ka sheet, which is very the standard size, 8x4. or it also comes in 4 by 2. So those kind of sheets you can use on walls. Now, before you apply it on the wall, you must use some kind of a base on the wall first, which could be your MDF or HDHMR, which I'm going to explain to you later on in detail. So those kind of materials are something which is like put on the base, and then you apply these charcoal sheets on top. These are available in variety of colors and textures, like whatever texture you feel like you will get here. Now they are also available in things like if you want a cork finish, if you want, if you are looking for a texture paint kind of a finish, if you are looking for a textured wood finish or a textured marble finish. So they are coming in variety of options these days. They're also coming in paintable options. So these waves kind of things. So these are all CNC made sheets, and then you can paint on top as per your choice. So this gives you so much freedom to work with. It gives you a lot of choices and options. And whenever you are looking for a solution which is quick and easy to install, then also this works for you. So it checks all the boxes. It is something which is durable. It is something which is also water resistant. It comes in huge variety of colors and textures. Also, it gives a very sophisticated looks as compared to your PVC. This looks more premium and also is a little bit more expensive than that. So the next kind of paneling that we are going to talk about is fabric paneling. Now, fabric paneling, as the name suggests, means that we are using fabric as wall panels. Now, just look at this small office or study design. Here they have used fabric panels behind the chair. Now, this wall is completely made of solid wood and upholstered panels. This gives a very rich and luxurious look, right? So these are what we call upholstered panels. What is done here is we take a plywood piece of our choice of the shape and color, shape whatever you want. It could be a triangle. Here in this case, they have used squares. So you take a square plywood, you apply some kind of foam on it. There is a little bit of, not very thick foam, but little bit of foam as we do in our beds also. So those kind of foams are added and then they are covered with fabric. Now, because we have so many options available in terms of fabrics, this gives us a huge opportunity. So if you want to create something which looks like cozy and has that kind of energy that provides the space a little bit kind of warmth, this is the way to go. You can go for fabric paneling where there is less traffic and there are not people who are going to spoil it. So durability of materials is something that as a designer you should keep in your mind. So durability, if the material you are applying gets spoiled within 6 months of its application, then it is of no use, right? So even though you are using delicate materials, use them such that they do not get spoiled as easily, right? So this is something that we always suggest everybody to do, that whenever you're looking for a design and you're thinking about a concept, think about in what will happen to this design in 10 years, right? What will happen to this material in 10 years? That is something that you should always ask yourself. So these kind of upholstered panels are a very good option if you're looking for accentuating a certain space in a wall. Now again, this kind of a material provides with some kind of sound insulation as well. Cloth is an absorbent of sound, even though this is not something that is going to soundproof your room, but this is something that is going to create less echo. Now, if you're looking for a conference room or an office of a CEO, maybe you want to go for fabric paneling because that is going to provide you with some kind of acoustic support as well, that the echo will not be as much, the sound will not go outside as much. So this is something that begins with that. Now there are also acoustic panels that you can use, which I'm going to discuss next. But if you are looking for a solution which is quick, easy and little bit cheaper than acoustic panels, then upholstered panels are something that will help you. Now, as I was talking about upholstered panels, now again another kind of panels which are very nice and good to use are acoustic panels. Acoustic panels, as the name suggests, these are the kind of panels which we use in spaces where there is so much of noise and you want the noise to be reduced. That is one use of it. Secondly, we use them where you want the place to be soundproof. You do not want your, if you are looking for a home theater solution, you want to look for acoustic panels for your walls because this will not affect your sound. Now imagine being in a theater, in a film theater where we are going to watch a movie. You might have noticed that they have a lot of fabric on the walls, right? So that fabric is actually a acoustic panel that they have created because they want to absorb the sound. If such a big scale of a space, that is, if there is no acoustic panel, if there is nothing on the walls, the sound will start to echo, and that will totally negate the point of being in a cinema. When you are in a cinema, you want to experience the movie with so much excitement and you want the to hear clear voices. Now that is something that people want these days at home as well. So when you're looking for things like home theater, you should always opt for acoustic panels. Also, for home offices and office solutions, people opt for acoustic panels because there are presentations to be made, there are things that needs to be discussed, which people want to be, so if there is echo or if there is too much noise coming from outside, you might not be able to communicate with the people you are trying to communicate with as easily. Today, a lot of Zoom meetings are happening, so also that makes up for it that you do need some kind of acoustic solution for your offices. So that so the next paneling that I'm talking about is MDF or HDHMR wall paneling. Now MDF and HDHMR are just like plywood. As we use plywood as base material, these days MDF and HDHMR is something which is put to use a lot more, right? So we will discuss about these materials in detail later on. But here what I mean to say is if you are trying to create a kind of solution where your wall somewhat looks like this. So here what they have done is they have used HDHMR or maybe MDF and they've cut them in the required shapes. The shapes that you have in mind, you can cut them in those shapes and or either groove them. Maybe this is a big panel, this is a one big panel, and with the help of CNC, you are creating grooves on it. So when you have these kind of panels ready, you put them on the wall and paint it. So this is something that also gives you a lot of freedom. This is something that you can create in any color or multiple colors. So it is also easy to paint and customize. If you are looking for, if you want to create a shape of your own, or maybe you have a logo for an office space which you want to get engraved on wall, then this might be a solution for you. Now, since it has a paint finish to it, it is also cheaper as compared to your charcoal paneling, let's say. So if you are doing HDHMR wall paneling, that is something which is very popular also these days. People are using these kind of wall panels to accentuate their spaces. Now here, if you look at this image on the left, they are using this kind of wall paint, and this also is used within the same color. So all the panels are of same color, which gives us an illusion that this is something which is being done on the wall. Now, which reminds me, yes, you can get this done in plaster as well, but that is not going to give you as much clean lines as you would want in a finished product. So HDHMR and MDF paneling is something that you can do if you want to accentuate a space and you want very clean line.